Hey everybody, so today I'm here to share with you guys an absolutely massive horror book haul. It's exclusively horror. I don't think there's anything but horror in here. I could be wrong, but I don't think that I am. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get into it. I'll try to link as many as I can of these books in the description box below. So the very first one that I got was actually yesterday. I went and put a few books into a free little library, and when I was in there I saw that they had I Am Legend, which I've just heard a lot of good things about. So I wanted to give it a try. I know it's an older horror story obviously, but it's one that I still hear people talk about and recommend, and that it's still like one of the scariest that they've ever read, or at least it's just like a really big staple in the genre. So I'm gonna give it a go. I don't traditionally do older horror. I don't read Stephen King. I don't do a lot of things that I feel like are normal for most horror readers, but I'm gonna give this a go because I keep hearing a lot about it. And the next one is not new to me. I didn't pick it up for myself. I picked it up for my friend Ashley, but I had to mention it in case you have not read this book. But I did pick up Hex. I already own a copy. I love my copy. I think it's still my most favorite horror book of all time as of right now, and I picked up a copy for Ashley, so I'm going to send this to her today, but I'm so excited for her to read it. If you haven't, I definitely would. It is a longer book. It is very atmospheric, and I just 10 out of 10. So even though this is not new to me, I did buy it technically, and I just had to mention it in case you haven't. And while I was there, I also got this one for myself. So the blurb says, men are disappearing from Toronto's gay village. They're the marginalized, the vulnerable. One by one, stalked and vanished, they leave behind small circles of baffled, frightened friends. Against the shifting backdrop of homophobia throughout the decades, from HIV, AIDS crisis, and riots against raids to gentrification and police brutality, their survivors face inaction from the law and disinterest from society at large. But as the missing grow in number, those left behind begin to realize that whoever or whatever is taking these men has been doing so for longer than is humanly possible. So, very interesting. I have not seen this like anywhere. I don't know. It was brand new to my Barnes & Noble, although I don't think it's a brand new book in and of itself. No, it's not. It was published in 2021. So, very interesting. I am super eager to read this book. Sounds like a really good read. The last Barnes & Noble book that I got, this was actually a while ago. I've already read this as well, but I can't not mention it, and that is A Head Full of Ghosts. This is probably my third favorite horror book of all time by Paul Tremblay. I talked about this in my May wrap-up, and this cover, amazing. I love this book. 10 out of 10. So good. But I did pick it up at Barnes & Noble a while ago, so I had to mention it. And then I just have a couple books from Amazon. If I can get these here. I guess we'll start with this one. This is probably my second favorite horror book. Again, obviously already read it. Had to mention it though. Stolen Tongues. It now has a new cover on Amazon, which I think I honestly might buy because I think I like the other cover a little bit better. But this was so good. So good. And just like A Head Full of Ghosts, I almost didn't pick this up because I didn't like the cover until I realized that it was a picture turned sideways. Don't get me started on that. But yeah, I wasn't like in love with this cover or anything. I felt like, oh, it's gonna be really cheesy. I don't know. So in my horror books, I don't really tab that often. What I normally do is just highlight the places that were eerie or creepy, unsettling, stuff like that. And I literally ran out of my highlighter. I had to get a new one with this book. That's how much I was highlighting. It was so, so good. I loved it so much. I'm eager to read more of Felix's work. I just recommend this one highly. If you saw the orange marks, that is not the book. That is me spilling my pop all over it. So, yeah. And then the next one I got, which actually just came in the mail yesterday. I don't even know really what it's about. I saw it on Pango Books, and someone had grabbed it before I could. So I decided to just buy it off of Amazon because of the cover. But it's called Bone Harvest. It says, "You shall reap what you sow." And I was like, immediately, I love the vibes this is giving off. So the blurb on the back says, struggling with the efforts of early onset dementia, Denny Keeling now leads a quiet life. Her husband is dead, her children are grown, and her best friend Sarah was convicted of murdering her abusive husband. After Sarah's tragic death in prison, Denny has found solace in her allotment, and all she wants is to be left to tend in peace. Life remains quiet for 12 years until three strangers take on a nearby plot, and Denny starts to notice unnatural things. So there's more to it as well. Oh, this author has written more. So I have high hopes for this. It sounds really good, and it looks like if I like this author, they have a couple more works. Let me back up for just a minute. I feel like I should have told you a little bit more about Hex. Hex is about a town that is cursed by a witch. That's as much as I want to tell you. Go into it knowing that. A Head Full of Ghosts is about a family, a mother, father, and 2 daughters, and the oldest one is appearing to be possessed by a demon. Go into it knowing that. That's about as much as I think you should know with that one as well. And then as far as Stolen Tongues, it is about a couple that is newly engaged. They go out to a cabin and strange things start happening. Again, all I really want to tell you, I think with all of that small amount of knowledge, you will have a really great time with these books. Yes, back to this one, my last Amazon purchase. I am very much looking forward to that. That might be my next read. So the next amount of books are from Pango Books. So I discovered this, and quite frankly, I don't know how to stop. Pango Books is a place where you can sell your own books online, and it is so convenient. It's really easy, and you can find brand new books for amazing prices. This is not an ad. This is not anything. I've spent a good amount of my own money here, but it's been really nice because I've been able to offload some of the books that I no longer want in my collection, and then I just let the money sit there in the form of Pango Books, and then that way whatever I'm buying is basically paid for by me selling my own books, if that makes sense. So this is Reprieve. I don't know a thing about this book, but I saw the cover and I was like, yes. It says, a chilling and blistering relevant literary novel of social horror centered around a brutal killing that takes place in a full contact haunted escape room. A provocative exploitation of capitalism, hate politics, racial fetishism, and our obsession with fear as entertainment. I don't know. It's got, I feel like, decent reviews on Goodreads. But with the cover, I'm very interested, and with that blurb, I'm super interested. I think the most expensive I bought a book for was $13, and that was a brand new release, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But most of these were between $4 to $7, so amazing. Like this one, this was $7. It's in perfect condition. There's nothing wrong with it. A lot of the paperback ones that I'm going to show you, they were like $4, $5, $6. Amazing. Anyways, so I got this one. It's called The Haunted, and I really like this cover, but I had seen it quite a bit on Book Outlet, but it was on Pango for cheaper. It says, Julian and Claire Perry and their 2 children, Megan and James, have made the move to a bigger, nicer home in their city's historic district, but something isn't right. The neighbors seem reluctant to visit. Claire can't shake the feeling that someone is watching her. Megan receives increasingly menacing and obscene texts, and James is having terrible dreams. No wonder, considering what he's seen in the corner of the basement staring at him and shuffling closer ever so slowly. So I think we all know why I'm interested in that one. Sounds amazing. The next one I got is Penpal, and I got this because a lot of people who had liked Stolen Tongues, which actually started as a Reddit story. On the back here it says, originally a contest winning story on reddit.com's horror community, No Sleep, Stolen Tongues has received widespread acclaim and is now being adapted into a feature film. I promise you, if they do this book dirty with a film, I'm not gonna be too pleased. Anyways, but this also started as a Reddit story as well. I do believe on a different forum. No, this one doesn't specify, but I do believe that this was on a different subreddit. I am familiar with No Sleep. I used to visit that all the time whenever I was on Reddit, not so much anymore. But it made me really interested because I really liked how Stolen Tongues worked out, obviously. So really interested. It says, an attempt to make sense of his own mysterious and unsettling childhood memories, a man begins to construct his past. As the games and adventures of his youth become engulfed by a larger story, he finds that it forms a tapestry of unbelievable horror that he never could have expected. So it kind of was giving me It vibes. So I also liked it for that reason. The next one is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. I think this is technically a YA horror, but nonetheless, I've heard really, really great things about it. My friend Ashley was also really eager to read this one as well, so I'm thinking of asking her if she wants to like do a buddy read because I really want to read this book and it's been on my radar for quite some time. The next one I was super happy with. I scored this book for $7. So happy about it. It's called The Death of Jane Lawerence. I personally don't know a whole lot about it, but I keep seeing a lot of people who I respect and I agree with when it comes to their horror recommendations They say this book is amazing, so I wanted to give it a shot. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. It has bonus content in the back of it, and the fact that I was able to score this for $7, excuse me, hardback, in perfect condition. Practical, unassuming Jane Shoringfield has done the calculations and decided that the most secure path forward is this: a husband and a marriage of convenience who will allow her to remain independent and occupied with meaningful work. Her first choice, the dashing but reclusive Dr. Augustine Lawerence, agrees to her proposal with only one condition: that she must never visit Lingdring Hall, his crumbling family manor outside of town. That's all I'm going to read. I'm going to go into it knowing that, and I like where it's headed. So I'm really hoping that that lives up to what everybody says it is. So I have my own book club Discord, and for July we are doing the horror genre, and everyone voted on Hide. So I know this got a lot of mixed reviews. I feel like very hit or miss I'm seeing, but I'm keeping my expectations low and just wanting to have a fun time, and if it ends up being scary, then so be it. But honestly, this will be in my possession no matter what because of the inside artwork. It is just absolutely amazing. So it's just basically about this game of hide and seek. It's like a contest, if I remember correctly, and things start obviously going wrong. So it sounds like a really cool premise. It's a pretty short book. I did not know that. It's not even 300 pages. So yeah, I'm eager to give it a shot. I know a lot of people, like I said, kind of hit or miss with this one, but I love the cover. I love the inside artwork. So it's one of those ones where I don't even care if I hate the book. I might just keep it just because of that alone. And the next set of books is actually a peek into my October TBR. So I have the whole month of October I'm going to be reading creepy books. I mean, obviously I do that pretty regularly now, but all of October I'm not making room for anything else. So yes, so I'm slowly accumulating those books so I can just get started, feet hitting the ground, running with that. And it's also really exciting because there is a lot of spooky books coming out in October, but I think that allows for me to push those books a little farther, like into November and even December, where I feel like it's not quite as popular for books to come out around that time that are spooky. So I'm looking forward to how this is going to work out. I lied. One of these is not for that at all. It just kind of got stuck in this pile. I've actually already read this as well, but it's called The Toll, and basically what it's about is that a newlywed couple is going on their honeymoon. They cross over this bridge, and then the husband wakes up. The wife is nowhere to be found, and whenever he calls for help, they tell him that that bridge does not exist. I think that's as much as I want you to know going into it as well, because there is a lot of stuff that's interesting. It says that it is a Southern Gothic horror with a contemporary twist. I completely agree with that. I think this is a very interesting book. I did feel like parts of it were like, meh. It did take me a little bit to get into. I don't know if it was quite 100 pages, a little over, a little under, something like that, but stick with it. I think it's worth reading. I feel like it's a pretty good book, and I had a good time with it. But I did get this off of Pango for like $4. Should have mentioned it earlier. These ones are for my October TBR. So I've got 3 here so far, and I have Kill Creek. And honestly, I don't know a whole lot about these books. I don't think I want to. I just know that this is a haunted house story. So I really liked the cover. Pretty simple, straightforward. I also like the name of it. So that's going to be one of the ones I read in October. The next one is Dead Silence. I told you guys a couple months ago I DNF'd this. I found this for like $7 on Pango. So picked it up. It's a hard copy. Absolutely love this. I love getting hardback copies for like under 10 bucks. It's like my new favorite sport. But yes, I do want to read this because I've heard nothing but amazing things about it, but I want to give it the attention and the time that it deserves. So I'm going to read that during October as well. And the last one is The Haunting of Ashburn House. I almost picked this up quite a few times at Barnes & Noble, and I'm glad that I found it on Pango for, I think this one was $6, because I've heard a lot of people say that the Darcy Coates is kind of like a beginner type author. That's the kind of vibes that people were getting from her. I'm sure there's people who disagree with that, and she could be phenomenal. I could love her work, even as someone who's not into just beginner horror. But just in case it is, I'm glad that I got this at a lower price. I'm trying to just keep my hopes low and be mildly surprised and happy with it in the long run. But again, it's just another haunted house story. So I feel like I can't ever go wrong with those. I do really like them. And the next and last amount of books is from Book Outlet. So this was something that I was very much looking forward to. I actually kind of forgot what was in the box because it's been so long. I just sat it aside for you guys. So this one might not be horror. I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people say that they would definitely consider this horror. Some people say it's more like a thriller. Obviously, I'm not going to know where I land on that until I read it, but I am so excited because this came in perfect condition, and I think I got it for like $7 off of Book Outlet, but that is Ace of Spades. I've been wanting to read this for so long. I'm so eager. From what I understand, it's about the only 2 black students at a private school being harassed and having like these really menacing things happening to them and them trying to piece it together and figuring out. I heard that people said not only was it a fabulous read, but it was an important one to read. So obviously I want to give it a go and I want to see what it's all about. I was so happy. Like, this is not a black dot or anything. This is like perfect condition and I'm so excited. I love this cover. I think it's like so interesting, especially the spine. I'm just really eager to dive into this story. So like I said, I've heard some people say this is definitely horror. Some people saying it's more like a thriller. I don't know, but we'll see. So I guess the only book here that might be on the fence of whether or not it's horror. These 2 books I've been wanting for a super long time. I've heard nothing but good things about this one, Near the Bone. Don't even really know what it's about. I've just seen so many people talk about it. So it says, Maddie can't remember a time before she and William lived alone on a mountain together. She must never make him upset, but when Maddie discovers the mutilated body of a fox in the woods, she realizes they're not alone after all. There's something in the woods that wasn't there before, something that makes strange cries at night, something with sharp teeth and claws. When 3 strangers appear on the mountaintop looking for the creature in the woods, Maddie knows their presence will anger William. Terrible things happen when William is angry. Above that it says, a woman trapped on a mountain attempts to survive more than one kind of monster in a dread-inducing horror novel. I don't know. Sounds pretty cool. I like wilderness, seclusion, that type of thing. Just like the whole hiking and like climbing mountains and stuff. The verbiage just gets a little bit away from me and I'm not really understanding or following what they're doing. And I don't really love that. But this sounds like it'll just kind of be more like wilderness. So very much looking forward to that one. I've wanted it for quite some time. And the next one is A Lush and Seething Hell. I've talked about this one on my Instagram. With a title like this, it immediately puts me in the mindset of the Evil Dead remake from 2013 that has like the vine scene with Mia. That is like my favorite movie of all time. I love that movie, and that scene, completely unsettling, and that's what the cover reminds me of. I'm sure it has nothing to do with that. And honestly, again, don't know what this book is about, but I love the cover and I love the title, so I wanted to give it a shot, as I keep saying in this video. So there's actually 2 different stories in this book, which I think is really interesting. It does have a synopsis of both on here, so if you want to look it up and see what they're each about, you can. But I think that in itself is interesting enough to grab my attention, so I'm going to go into this one pretty blind. I loved A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. I want to read a lot of his other back work, so I got this one. It's called Growing Things. It's a bunch of different stories by Paul Tremblay, and I am really excited. They had a synopsis for each story, and the very first one, I was like, immediately yes. I love short horror stories. Looks like about 18 different stories in here, give or take. I just have a lot of fun with little stories like this, like collections. So I'm really interested, especially since I loved his other book so much. I'm hoping that I love it as much as well. And then the next one is These Silent Woods. So this isn't really super new to me, but it's been on my Amazon wish list for quite some time as well. If this is the book that I'm remembering correctly, some people said that while it is technically in the horror genre, more people put it into the thriller category. So I'm going to just try to keep that in mind and try to just have a good time with it. Most of the time, if books have like conflicting reviews, I will just lower my expectations. And as long as I'm entertained, then the book has done its job. So that's what I try to do if something has a lower rating than what I would love and still want to give it a try. So it says, no electricity, no family, no connection to the outside world. For 8 years, Cooper and his young daughter, Finch, have lived in isolation in a remote cabin in the northern Appalachian woods. And that's exactly the way Cooper wants it, because he's got a lot to hide. Finch has been raised on the books, filling the cabin shelves in the beautiful but brutal code of life in the wilderness. But she's starting to push back against the sheltered life Cooper has created for her. And he's still haunted by the painful truth of what it took to get them there. The only people who know they exist are a mysterious local hermit named Scotland and Cooper's old friend Jake, who visits each winter to bring them food and supplies. But this year Jake doesn't show up, setting off an irreversible chain of events that reveals just how precarious their situation really is. So, it kind of reads to me like more of a thriller than horror, but you know, we'll see. Honestly, I'm kind of equally as excited for both of these. So I'm not quite sure which one, but I'll go with the one that I knew about for a little bit longer. And it's called When the Reckoning Comes. Now I know what this is about, but I'm just going to read you the blurb because I feel like it could do a far better job than me trying to summarize what it's about. More than a decade ago, Mira fled Kipson, her small, segregated hometown in the South, to forget. With every mile she traveled, she distanced herself from her past, from her best friend, Celine, mocked by their town as the only white girl with black friends, from her neighborhood, from the eerie woodsman plantation rumored to be haunted by spirits of slaves, from the terrifying memory of a ghost she saw on that terrible day when a dare gone wrong almost got Jesse, the boy she secretly loved, arrested for murder. Now Mira is back in Kipson to attend Celine's wedding at the plantation that has been transformed into a lush vacation resort. Mira hopes to reconnect with her friends, especially with Jesse, so she can finally tell him the truth about her feelings and the events of that devastating long ago day. For all its fancy renovations, the Woodsman's remains a monument to an oppressive racist history. The bar serves antebellum-themed drinks. Entertainment includes horrifying reenactments, and the service staff is nearly all black. The darkest elements of the plantation's past, that slaves were tortured mercilessly, have been carefully erased. As the weekend unfolds, Mira, Jesse, and Celine are forced to acknowledge their history together to save themselves from what is to come. This might be one of my next reads because I'm just looking forward to it so much. I've heard pretty good things about it. And the very last book for this enormous horror book haul, quite a few over here, one that I found on Amazon, and when I saw it on Book Outlet, this is what made me check out with my cart. So when I was looking for my October TBR, I was purposely looking out for more BIPOC authors, and this one came up in the horror genre, and it sounded so good that honestly, I don't want to save it for October. I want to read it. Honestly, it might be this book and then this book that I read next, but it is The Good House. The home that belonged to Angela Toussaint's late grandmother is so beloved that townspeople in Sacagawea, Washington called it the Good House. But that all changes one summer when an unexpected tragedy takes place behind its closed doors, and the Toussaint's family history and future is dramatically transformed. Angela has not returned to the Good House since her son Corey died there 2 years ago, but now Angela is finally ready to return to her hometown and go beyond the grave to unearth the truth about Corey's death. Could it be related to the terrifying entity Angela's grandmother battled 7 decades ago? So it's like a haunted house story, but a lot more to it. So I am really, really eager to read this one as well. So that is all the books for this enormous horror book haul. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, why don't we go ahead and put the rundown house emoji, the one that could kind of pass for a haunted house, since I have so many haunted house stories to get through apparently. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and as always, thanks for watching.